Welcome back to I Want to Teach English, the channel where we explore powerful ideas, real stories, and research-based practices that move language and literacy forward for English learners. And today's conversation is a special one because I'm honored to be joined by Luma Mufleh, educator, author, and founder of the Fugees Family, an organization that has reimagined what education can look like for refugee and immigrant students across the country. Her work goes far beyond the classroom. It centers on belonging and dignity, healing, and the power of giving students a voice, especially those whose stories are often overlooked. So in this conversation, we're going to explore her journey, the philosophy behind her work, and what it truly means to create spaces where multilingual learners don't just learn English, they find their identity, purpose, and agency through education. So please give a warm welcome to Ms. Luma Mufleh. Welcome to the show. It's truly an honor to have you on I Want to Teach English. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Jose.
So, outside of maybe some interviews and somebody might have seen you on television or maybe the TED Talk, kind of give us, let's dial it back a little bit. Let's take a little, let's go a little on a time travel, if you will. Take us back to the beginning. What got you into education?
It was completely by accident. I was living in Atlanta. I'm originally from Jordan, and I moved here for college and then applied for asylum after college and ended up in the South. And so when I was living in Atlanta, I was running errands to go to a Middle Eastern grocery store one day to get authentic hummus and pita bread and the spices of home. And I missed my turn onto Ponce de Leon, ended up going into this apartment complex and U-turning there. And when I went in, there were these kids outside playing soccer. And they were playing with a raggedy soccer ball, rocks set up as goals, barefoot, having the time of their lives. And it reminded me of home. Like of the way I grew up playing soccer in the streets with my brothers and cousins. And it was great. No coaches, no parents yelling, just for the love of the game. And I'd been a club soccer coach at the time. I had a soccer ball in my car. I popped it out, walked out. They ran to me. They wanted the ball. I wanted to play. So like all good immigrants, we haggled about that.
Yeah.
And they reluctantly let me into their game so they could have the ball. And that's how it all started. Like it was completely organic. And I started coaching them and realized what they were facing in the United States. And, condense it a little bit. So went from coaching one team to 3 to 4. And then, some kids would ask for help with their homework. So I'd help them with their homework. And then there was this one moment when one of my players was asking for help with his homework. And he said, "Coach, can you come read this to me? I have a headache." And I said, "Sure." And I read it to him. His name was Lewis from Sudan. Never caused any trouble, quiet kid. I didn't think anything of it. But he did that another day. And then by the third day, I was like, "Lewis, I have a headache. You read to me." And he just looked up at me and said, "Coach, I can't read."
Wow.
And it broke me.
Wow.
I was 13 years old, been in the country for 4 years, and he couldn't read. He could speak pretty decently. And, for me, I was 2 degrees removed from that experience, right?
Yeah.
I come to this country, I grew up with a great education. My parents sent me to British and American schools because they believed that's the best the world had to offer. So in my naive, idealistic mind, I thought every school in America was like the State Department run school I went to. And it was not,
Surprise.
Right? And then my players had to turn in their report cards to play. And he had A's and B's, how's he getting A's and B's if the kid can't read? And so I said, if this was my kid, what would I do? I'd find him a school that could serve him. Wasn't any school that could serve him. Private schools, too expensive. And they also didn't know how to serve him. And so just on a whim, we're like, okay, let's try and create our own school. Started off as 6 kids, 1 teacher in a church basement, and then kept growing. And that's how I got into it.
Wow. Well, I mean, it was a necessity. There was a need there. I mean, you had personal experience
Mhm.
with the struggle, I guess,
Yeah.
and so you found a remedy for it, however, whatever means that was necessary, and it kind of blossomed from there. That's what I take from the story.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you
Okay.
see a problem, like there's solution. There's always a solution, right?
Which right. Well,
Yep.
definitely not the conventional path that most educators take,
Yeah.
but certainly that's a great story. So let's talk about the conventional educators, if we will, because they may not fully understand what the refugee experience is, right?
Mhm.
So what's something you wish every teacher knew about the students that you serve through Fugees Families? Because I mean, you have a personal story, and I can relate to what you're saying, because a lot of people ask me like, why do you teach these night courses with these immigrants, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, because my parents were immigrants, and my parents never really learned to speak English well. And I remember being a school kid and trying to teach my mom, but it's kind of different with your mother. So when
Yeah.
I go into a classroom, I don't see, people that are just coming from work. I see somebody's mother, I see somebody's wife, somebody's sister, etc.,
Yeah.
somebody's brother. And so there's that personal. And so in that sense, I can totally relate to what you're saying. But to those educators that come from, middle America, or, the suburbs or whatever, they don't have those kind of experiences. So what do you wish they knew about your students, and how you deal with that with the Fugees family?
I mean, we have students from all over the world, every country imaginable, and they're a very diverse group. Multilingual students are not monolithic,
Hmm.
right? And so
Right.
their background, their experience, some are literate in their own language, some are not literate in their own language. Some have gone to school, some have gone to school and then had it interrupted, some have never been in school. But I think the most important thing that I want people to know is they are incredibly smart and resilient and will be successful in the right environment, right? And we talk about the assets that they bring to the communities in the classroom, and it's their perspective. Like they believe they can do anything, right?
Yeah.
And they also, like, when you think about it, if a kid was forced to leave their country, war-torn country, or gang-infested country, for whatever reason they were forced to leave, and that journey to America is never easy. It's walking hundreds of miles, not knowing what's next, so much uncertainty.
Mhm.
And then you come to this country like, okay, I've got a house, I've got food, and I get to go to school. Three things they may not have had previously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learning English is easy compared to what they've gone through. And
Yeah.
so you've got to bring that out in them instead of shutting it down.
Right. And I like to bring that up too, about so much that we take for granted, but that's still hard for someone to really conceptualize and wrap their heads around, right? But here's one thing that I think people can connect with, because in your schools, they center on healing, right? They center on belonging and identity. These are not just concepts; these are things that people really try to gravitate to.
Mhm.
So, how do those elements show up in everyday classroom instruction, from your point of view?
Because we started off as a soccer team, soccer is still a core component of our programming. So every kid in the school plays soccer, they practice, there's intramural games or in rec leagues, depending on what is available. Arts and movement are core to, they're not electives or what do you call I forget what other words some districts describe them. They're core subjects in our model. Um, we have the house system. I think it's the British house system. Most people are familiar with Harry Potter around that, but that was initially designed for British boarding schools when kids left home to create a place that they felt like they belonged, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so those are core structures we have. And part of it is you're intentionally mixing different groups. So you're part of an academic cohort, you're part of an athletic team, you're part of a house that's multi-aged and extremely diverse. So you have social safety nets and you're getting to interact with all kinds of kids instead of just sticking to a small group. And then the arts, like we have intentionally designed our school day where kids can feel success, right?
Hmm.
So if you're struggling in English and math and traditional content areas, you don't need a language to be really good at art or music or athletics, right? And so where is it that they're feeling physically strong in their body? You know, we do yoga and martial arts and soccer. And then where is it that they can express themselves and feel confident and then be motivated to push themselves in areas where they struggle? And then we celebrate everything in the building. Like everybody, it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to interact with each other. It's an opportunity to compete. And it's beautiful. Like, people want to learn about each other. And we do it like in a fun way. You know, one of the things we do is we do potlucks every month. So a different house, and they're bringing in, and you're tasting food you never thought you would take. You know, that's a unifier. And so it's like, take this group that is so diverse, you know, and I had players on my initial teams, they were from warring factions, right? And I'm like, if I can't figure out how to get these kids to get along, we're not going to win any game. Right? And part of it is, you got to learn about each other. Some of the stuff you've been told about other cultures are not true. Other beliefs are not true. Find what you have in common, and then teach someone about your background. And then I think it's really important for our students to embrace who they are. You know, for so long in American history, we're taught assimilate, reject it all, blend in, don't call attention to yourself. Even Americanizing names. Like, I have people, it's like, this is my American name, this is my Arab name. And we want our kids, like, no, you bring in the best of your home, your culture, and your family, and the best of what America has to offer, and those things can coexist. It's not one or the other, right?
There's a phrase that you said that was the social safety net, and there's the social element cannot be understated. I mean, it is such an important factor in the whole concept of the whole belonging, you know, that we're trying to have. Because if students can't socialize with each other, if they can't connect, like you were given the example with the students that had, you know, we were from different warring states that were somehow having to set aside that in order to play on the same team. I mean, those are major hurdles, but if you overcome that, then anything's possible.
And you need to feel that to be successful, because if you feel like you don't belong, or nobody cares about you, or nobody feels about you, you're not going to be successful. Like, even adults need that in their workplace, in their family, like, and it's the same for kids. And so many kids feel socially isolated, not just multilingual kids, like so many kids. And it's sad. Like,
so it sounds like Fugees Family is cultivating this idea of belonging, and really supports all the needs so that there can be this cohesion, right? Okay. So, you know, a lot of systems, they focus on like remediation for English learners, right? So how do you shift that narrative from catching up? Because you mentioned that, you know, bring the best from where you come from, which is fantastic. But in the terms of like, we still have to deal with the elephant in the room, right? Which is, you know, traditional, conventional schooling. And so they have a set of rules, and they have a set of benchmarks, and they have testing and all these things, right? So schools, because by design and by nature, they want to have remediation for a lot of these students. How does your philosophy go from like catching up narrative to truly empowering the students?
So, you know, we've worked in the charter school space, in the private school space, and in public school districts. So we've seen kind of every possible iteration of it. The school that I started was a private school for 12 years. It was, you know, philanthropy funded, you know, bare bones. And then, you know, we went into the charter space and the voucher space, and now we partner with school districts. Our approach is we start you where you're at. So if you are at a kindergarten level and you're 14, we're going to start you with that work. But it's rapid acceleration, right? It is not, we're going to take a year for kindergarten, a year. It's 3 years packed into one, right? And with our students, we're always showing them their data. This is where you tested in multiple, you know, whether it's a MAP assessment, iReady, their access scores, and this is where we're going to get you. And this is what we need from you. And I think that transparency is motivating to the kids. You know, it's a very like athletic approach. You know, your coach tells you what they need you to do. They show you the stats and what you need to improve. And we get kids caught up to grade level in 3 years. And then they're ready to integrate at the same level field as everybody else, right? Where traditional approaches have them in classes because that's their age. They should know biology, even though they've never taken any science in their life, right? And we've got to be a little bit more flexible and innovative and figure out what is our end goal. Is our end goal to check a box, say, okay, this kid graduated, this kid sat in the right class, or is our goal to educate kids? And when we hand them a diploma, that stands for something. It's not just a piece of paper, right?
Right. There's a certain skill sets that need to come with graduating, right? They come with completing the courses.
It should be an accomplishment, right? Like,
yes.
I graduated high school. Like that's
you got hard. The paper, but no skills. And I think that's one of the biggest criticisms that public schools get, is that you pump out, diplomas, but you're not giving them the skills, or at least they're not coming out with the skills that are necessary when they reach the workforce. So how do you combat that? How do you change the footing there for students going, hey, it's great that we're sharing ideas and you're telling your stories and you're all these great things, but how do those skills translate to them going into the workforce?
Yeah, I mean, one thing like about telling their stories, and so we're very cautious around that. We share like, okay, let's share a recipe that your family has or a tradition, but the more the journeys that they have, that's on their own terms when they're ready. That's not, and I know a lot of people will try and force those. And I just think people need to tread lightly around that because you don't know what is going to come out and how that's going to manifest itself, right?
Oh, yeah. It can get messy, right?
It can get really messy really quick, right? And so for us, it's about like, this is what we need you to do. And so our messaging is to both the educators and the students. Like our students need to know they deserve better and that hey, if I went to, China right now, like they'd start me at the bottom. I don't know anything, right?
Yeah, I think you and I be in the same class.
Because of my age and some of my background knowledge, right?
Right.
And then for us, it's like that transparency is like, no, you got this wrong. We're going to practice it again until you get it right. And then teachers using that data to improve their instruction and how they accommodate and approach each kid, because each kid is unique. And for the teachers to have, like, the parents trust them, right? And a lot of our parents don't question the teachers. They don't question the schools. And a lot of schools get around with doing the bare minimum for multilingual students, right?
Yeah, they do.
Our teachers have this burden of responsibility. If our parents are trusting you, they're saying, I'm trusting you, teach my kid, you teach that kid. You make sure when they leave your classroom that they know how to read, they know how to do basic math. In the future, they know algebra. It's like, you've got to stand for something. You've got to have a higher quality and a standard of excellence. And with students, like, you set it here, right? And they reach it. We're like, oh, you can go further out. And so it's always setting the bar higher.
Yeah.
But it's achievable. It's here, but not, it's here. We're going to drop it. We're going to drop it. Like,
right. Luma, you've been to other countries, right?
Yeah.
Have you visited schools in other countries?
I have, yeah.
So let me ask you, the philosophy and the way that you've developed your program, is that unique to the United States? Because if you go to other countries, I'm questioning because I don't know this. I'm asking if they have similar systems where they take in foreigners, refugees, etc., and they give them the kind of support that you and your program is given.
I mean, I don't think the world knows how to support refugees and immigrants. Like, I think part of it is like, nope, this is our country. We don't want anything coming in. We don't, like, even in Jordan, like, we had an influx of, first it was Palestinian refugees, then it was Iraqi refugees, and then Syrian refugees. And we didn't educate them. It's the same language, right? It's like, it's not our responsibility, right? And, we see some countries in Europe that are really struggling with it because they keep trying to fit them into the system that was not designed for them.
I see.
So design a system that works for the kids instead of trying to fit them into something that doesn't work.
Do you think a lot of these other countries are just reluctant to even approach it that way?
I
I mean, I'm
think,
not asking you to go and and interview like
yeah, I mean, I
or
think,
anything, but just in talking, do you think that the countries just aren't willing to even try that?
I think there's some that are not willing, and I think there's some that it's like, it's so hard to break the system or change it, right? It's
Mm,
been going on for so long. This is how my parents were taught, my grandparents were taught, my
yeah,
great grandparents. And so it's like, why do we need to change it? But it's like society is changing,
yeah.
technology is changing. We've got to be innovative and adapt and not like stick in our old ways because we're not setting up kids for success.
So do you think that's what the pushback is in this country? That you have people that are more traditionalists and they're more like, this is the way my parents did it and their parents did it.
I mean,
You think that's why it's happening?
you have districts that think innovation is this new app, right? You're like, "That's not innovation. Let's talk about innovation," right?
Right, right. Dude, let's
So,
go. Give it
yeah,
to me.
how do we reward truly innovative models and disseminate them on a wider scale? I think people get complacent,
Yeah.
right? And they don't do anything until it becomes a huge problem,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of immigrants in this country. This
Mhm.
country has always had a lot of
Yep.
immigrants, and we have way more now, I think. And so the school systems are trying to catch up. They're trying to figure, and then to their credit, they are trying to redesign the systems
Mhm.
from within. But it's a slow process,
It's very slow.
and it hasn't reached every corner in every state yet.
Mhm.
So a lot of people, because I travel the country and been to different places, especially out in the Midwest. A lot of these districts, they have no clue what's going on. They're trying to figure it out. They really are,
Yeah.
but they just don't have like enough background, enough
Mhm.
people with experience in this line of work, and so they have to recruit people from other parts.
Well, and I also think like districts that don't know should try and learn about it, right? Like, so
Yeah,
if you're a systems leader and you don't know, understand like what allow plan is, right? And why that's in place, right?
right. Yes.
Understand the history of Plyler versus Doe. Like,
Yeah.
understand what got us to where we are, and then find solutions that work and put people in place with ML experience and like the understand the science of teaching our students, because it's not the traditional way. Like the bilingual brain also works differently,
Oh yeah.
right? And we
Yep.
don't count that. And like, I just think there's so much opportunity, but we don't bring in the experts or we don't become the right experts, right?
Hmm.
And I think what this work has done for me, it's humbled me. Like, I've had to learn, I've had to observe, I've had to be
Mm.
like, this theory that I had is not working. Like, let's try something different. Um, and all of it is like, if a student graduates from one of our schools, it's not a piece of paper. It stands for something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like someone works for me and they go to apply somewhere else. I want everyone to know, like, this stands for something. Like,
Yeah.
right?
That's kind of what I was alluding to before, in that it's not just the diploma, that there's a skill set that comes with it, right?
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of times people just look at the diploma and don't really look at what all that is supposed to imply.
Yep.
And so when they enter the workforce, they have all these issues. They're like, well, they're not prepared.
Mhm.
There was a here where I live in Baltimore. I don't know, where are you located? You're like in
I'm
Ohio,
in
right?
Columbus, Ohio, and we serve
Ohio.
schools in Georgia, Ohio, and Kentucky.
So I mean, I think you being that you're part of the Rust Belt area, that part of the country, that you've seen factories close down, and industry has moved,
Yep.
and so that affects and impacts communities. And so Baltimore is no different in that respect, in that you've had a lot of industry move out of here, and that has had an economic impact
Mhm.
on this area. And well, I mean, when you have economic challenges, sometimes those take precedence over the nuances, what you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
So that might be part of the issue. But
Yeah.
and there was
Funded,
Amazon was right.
right?
So Amazon was thinking of like opening one of their big headquarters here. Right,
Mhm.
there was a big to do about it, but they ultimately elected not to. And part of the reason why, at least this is what I read, was because they were concerned with the skills that the students were graduating from
Mhm.
in this area. They were just looking at assessment scores and that sort of thing. and it was not appealing to them, so they went somewhere else. And this has an impact on the community.
Where
Schools
did they
really
go?
need to think about that.
But like, where did they go? Because I'm curious where they're seeing like really good scores and really good like career preparedness. Like where is that happening consistently, right?
That's a good question. I would have to follow that up, but I'm sure when I put this video out, I'll actually maybe include it in the description or whatever, or maybe I'll put it in a little crawler underneath.
Yeah.
But definitely they went somewhere else. I don't know if they went to New York or went somewhere else, and they went looking at what the graduation rates are like and what this, grades were, et cetera, and that was how they did it. I mean, part of it was, I'm sure that they had a lot of tax breaks and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, but like, I mean, just even some of the soft skills of you got to show up on time. How do you communicate with your employees? Like, we're not teaching that in school.
Right.
Like, you miss school, it's okay. You're late to class, it's okay. Right.
Let's not beat around the bush, Luma. Right. I mean, there's a lot of that. Schools are guilty of it, mm-hmm. and I think part of it is compassion, that we just, we want to we're the kings of like second, third, 1400th chances. We just want to keep doing it. But I think at some point, students start to, and kids really develop this idea that, well, there's no real consequence, and that has impact down the road.
Yep. It does. Like, one of our design principles is loving accountability. Like, you call kids out when they do something wrong, and there are consequences to it, right? Mm-hmm. And they get a chance to do better. They get a chance to walk through how they would have changed, but you don't just let it go, and you don't give 14 chances. Like, I tell I'm like, I'll warn you once and that's it. And that's hard as an adult, because some days you're just like, and you just kind of like, okay, I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I remember one kid, he had graduated and came back to visit, and he's like, coach, like when I was like in school, I could never understand why, like, you wouldn't let us go to class if we didn't have our uniform perfectly, like the tie, the shirt tucked in, the belt, like, and he said, you wouldn't let the little things go. Sometimes I'm like, it's not a big deal. Just let these things go. I'm 2 minutes late. Just let it go. And he's like, and then I went out into the real world, and he's like, and I'm more prepared than anybody else. And then he thanked me, right? But he thought I was not, like,
you're just being strict.
Yeah, I'm being strict. And I said, I'm being strict, and I have expectations of you because I love you, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't have that, it means I don't care about you, right?
Yeah, I think kids just don't understand that. And I think there's a lot of parents that aren't really pushing it, that sometimes hard love is what kids need. It's not, and I'm not talking about like abusing them or anything like that, but like there should be consequences if they do wrong. This is how they learn. This is the guardrails, right? That keeps them from going and veering off and doing other things. I listened this morning on the news this morning. There was a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old stole a car at 7 o'clock in the morning and crashed it. Now you tell me, what's a 10-year-old? First of all, what's a 10-year-old doing outside of their house at 7 o'clock in the morning? They should be on getting ready for school or something. They stole somebody's car and crashed it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm willing to bet that wasn't his first offense.
Yeah, and it won't be his last.
This is the world we're in. And it's so we really need to have this conversation, because this is impacting all of education. It's impacting society. It's impacting the community. And this is why I think a lot of times when you just have these conversations out in the open public, people they feel a certain way about the school system. Who can blame them?
But it's like not just the school system, right? Because like that kid that's out stealing a car, that's not, the school can't fix that if the family is not aligned, right? So they both have to be aligned. Like, the thing is, I think people expect schools to fix all of society's ills.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Right?
No, you're right, it isn't.
Because our teachers, like, some things that are happening in the classroom, it's like, how did we get to this? Right?
Well, it's that old saying, right, Luma? It takes a village.
It does take a village.
And I think there are certain components of this village that aren't doing their part. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's just the bottom line. But we're trying.
Yeah.
People like you and I are trying, and I got to give you a lot of props, because what you're doing is a wonderful thing. I did a lot of reading on the Fugees family, and it's wonderful. It really is. sainthood, maybe. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But it's like, you know what I mean. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really commendable.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about writing, okay? Because I think we spent a little bit of time talking about the system, but let's get back to the real work that we have to do. Because in spite of everything and how we feel, and we can talk about that all day long. But the reality is, we do have to get these kids to sit down and focus. And we need something like writing, for example, which is something I've taken spent a great deal of time in the last few years researching and developing different ways to get English learners, for example, to focus on their writing, because that's a pathway to building their confidence, right? That's the ultimate goal, because that's the agency that we're talking about. Kids, if somebody can't write, they lose that agency, because now they surrender that to somebody who can write on their behalf. So how do you see writing now? We can talk about that in terms of storytelling if you wish, but how is that playing a role in helping students process their experiences and building identity? Because let's not get around it, that's still a core component of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, writing is therapeutic in itself, right? And more so pen to paper, right? Instead of just typing, but like the expression of ideas, the constructive criticism of ideas, the ability to think, but the way to articulate it intelligently is something that does hold agency, right? And so how do you get kids, to feel confident about their writing? And how do you teach those skills, right? Because I think, like if you have like I speak Arabic, right? Our writing is very different. Like we write right to left, our alphabet is different, our sentence structure is different. But then the approach to teach an Arabic speaker how to write in English and a Spanish speaker is the same approach, and they shouldn't be, right? Because they're different. And so how is it that we develop scaffolds, prompts, techniques to address the home language that the students come from? And then show them what great writing does. We don't like what kids see right now. They see, athletes, right? Athletes in their heads don't write. They see YouTube stars, they don't write, and so it's like, you've got to show them where that comes in and why. And I think there needs to be rigor in it, like don't just give a good grade because they turned in something. Like make sure you're correcting everything. I mean, I remember when I wrote my books, my editor went at it with a red pen. And like the first time she gave me chapter feedback, I was like, I'm a crappy writer. Well, I thought I was a good writer, but she elevated my game. She's like, I'm part of your team. We're putting this out together. We're going to do the best that we can. Yeah. Right. And by the end, like, I was like, all right, I am now the best writer I could be. Before I wasn't, right? And a good editor, a good teacher brings that out in you. And it was that back and forth feedback that made me better. Not this just like, okay, this is good or this is wrong. It's like, no, express this more. Like, at one point she said, poor word choice. I was like, she said, what? It was a poor word choice. It was a lazy word choice, but yeah. So,
hey, Luma, this is a good spot for you to mention what book that is, so our viewers can go out and check out that book or buy it off Amazon or something. What's the name of this book?
So I wrote two books. That one, it was Learning America, and it's the journey of founding the Fugees and the work that I'm in. And then I wrote a young adult book called From Here, and it's about growing up gay in Jordan, my journey to coming here and getting asylum and what that was like. And I wrote them back to back. Yeah.
So the links to those books will be in the description, everyone. So you can be sure to get a copy today. Okay. Now I can attest that writing is no easy feat for anyone. Even somebody who's a seasoned writer will have moments where they struggle, right? And that's just part of the process. But that's one thing where, like, if you're like what you do, like you're in a rhythm and you're going. But we're talking about a student who's learning English and trying to get them into a rhythm. Or that is like, that is the holy grail. We can figure that out.
But like journal every day, like first 10 minutes of your class, start journaling. Like just that, like free write, and then it's going to get better.
Yeah, there's definitely ways. There's definitely strategies that people use. I use a number of them. what you just said too. Journaling is a big one.
Mhm.
But like, what are some ways that educators can better support multilingual learners beyond just this through the process, with writing? I think writing is the ultimate goal,
Mhm.
honestly. But like when they're like navigating through, like you had mentioned earlier about, and I think you were alluding to trauma and that sort of thing, and displacement, and maybe
Yeah.
the horrors that come with that. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they don't want to talk about those sort of things, and they shouldn't, because you want them to feel like,
Yeah.
you talk about what you feel comfortable talking about, because you don't want to have them feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think that's a big key, is having them feel safe in
Mhm.
expressing whatever it is that they want to express. It could be something like sports related. Like there's never any shortage of opinions
Yep.
of soccer teams, for example.
Yeah. I mean, like,
That could turn into an argument too, though, right?
right? But that's a debate, and that's a writing skill, right? So
Yeah.
show me why Ronaldo's better than Messi.
Oh yeah, that's
Fast,
the
right?
ongoing debate right
Right?
now. And I get kids. I'm
Messi,
like, I don't want to hear it. I
don't
want you to
debate.
write it. I don't
There's
want to hear you telling me. I want you to write. I want to read the reasons. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
a good
even
one.
if like it ends up being an oral debate, you having it written down and spelled out helps that,
Well,
right?
yeah,
You're not
because it could.
memories like, no, I've done this. I know what they're going to counter at, and that's a skill that will pay you like for the rest of your life.
Yeah, do a
Um,
checklist. If nothing else, do a checklist.
do a checklist, right?
Go down the list. You can verbally tell us your reasons, but make sure you have something written down to remind yourself, because you will get up there and you'll forget. So yeah, that's a good one.
And like I think teachers need to know what strategies work for multilinguals, right?
Yeah,
And so the approach has to be multisensory. It can't just be flat, right?
can't
So
be just like a white room.
no, but like if we have a student, like if we're doing read, so teachers reading whatever grade level it is,
Yeah.
students are following along in the text or whatever, we start having them draw what the teacher is saying,
I
right?
see what you mean. Yeah.
And so now, okay, here's the visual. They're hearing the sound. They're connecting it to the text. So that's how you're going to acquire language. It's not going to be just reading it over and over again. Like, are they truly comprehending? Because you'll have kids that know how to decode and don't comprehend, right? And I remember like once I was subbing in for a class and the word ship was in there. And I said, who knows what a ship is? And, most of them did not. And then one of the kids like, it's a boat. I'm like, is it a small boat or a big boat? They're like, it's a big boat. I'm like, how big? And they're like, as big as this room. And I was like, no, like 10 times the size of the building. And they're like, what? And then like the cool thing is you could just pop it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where like when I was growing up, you can pop anything up on a screen, right?
Yeah.
And so they saw it and then they're like, oh, that's ship, right?
Yeah.
Like, that continuous like inputs of what it is, what it looks like, and don't assume they know, right? Like
Right.
I assumed a group of 7th graders would know what ship is, but it was the way we were reading, the intonation indicated that kid did not know, right? And so you pay attention, you're like, okay, he did not know what it meant. And take right?
So you're right. I mean, obviously visuals are key to get them to kind of do that. There was an exercise that was about that, similar. And there was one class that I taught that had Portuguese speakers, Italian speakers, Farsi, and a few other, a couple of African languages that were in there. So it was a real mix of students, And so we're doing this vocabulary word, right? I can't remember which. We did a number of them, but there was this one particular one that really triggered this whole like series of events I'm about to explain to you. So like for the Spanish speakers, I went off, talked about it. I said what the word was. I can't think right off the top of my head what the word was, but it was a similar word in Portuguese, right? And so the student in Portuguese were like, oh, I recognize that we use almost the exact same word. I'm like, that's great. And then the Italian speaker was, well, that's very, very similar to the Italian word. Anyways, by the time it was like a big connection with multiple students with different languages. I even think the Farsi guy got jumped in too. At one point, he's like, yeah, we have something that's similar. And they were just making the connections, and they were all talking. At one point, I was like just standing there, and they're all talking to each other. And I'm like, okay, can we come back to the regular class now?
Yeah.
But it was like sometimes students will take that and they'll run with it, especially when they're finding connections amongst themselves. Like they almost do well learn amongst themselves if you give them the right, the right platform for it.
like a good teacher is a guide,
Yeah.
right? So they're guiding the students. They're giving discussion prompts that allows the students to interact, not dominating the discussion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like we sometimes assume people understand or they've gotten it just because they're nodding their head, or it's just, okay, we need to move along. But like, you've got to pause and check for comprehension. And there are different ways, show me to act this out for me. Like, what does this really mean? Right.
Yeah.
Come out and teach it. Like if they can teach it, they know it. Right. And so having some more creativity around what that looks like, but show me and tell me. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's remarkable, really, when you see it unfold like that. I've many stories like that throughout my career. So let's get to this. Looking ahead, Luma, what gives you hope right now in the field of education? Because, there's still a lot needs to change, and there's a lot going on, and I don't want to get into all of it, but we have to acknowledge that, there are challenges that we face. And how do you see this transpiring in your view for public education, at least, and how that impacts Fugees?
I mean, it's tough. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, this has been a brutal couple of years. And this, following the pandemic, like education's just been one thing after the other. Right?
You're right about that.
And I was like hopeful, like during the pandemic, like people started to innovate and push the limits a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if one thing comes out of the pandemic is that we realized what's wrong with the system and we started changing it. But the minute that pandemic was over, we went back to the old way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, not completely, to be fair. I mean, I think online education really boomed. I do it. Even I have an online class.
Yeah.
And using Zoom and platforms like this, what we're using right now.
Yeah.
Really, prior to the pandemic, nobody was really, at least not to this degree.
Yeah.
To where it's like almost an everyday thing. I'm on this a lot. So in that respect, I think the hybrid nature of education has changed. That landscape has changed, but I think there's enough data now that we can point to and say, well, yeah, but it doesn't have the same impact as face to face.
Right.
It really
doesn't. It doesn't have the same, and developmentally for that age group, no, like they need that social interaction. We need that human connection. We need the relationship building. Like you can build a decent relationship online, but it is limited. Right.
Yeah.
And I think like for us, like our work is in immigration and education. And right now, those are the two most polarizing, divisive political issues in the country.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Let's not circumvent that. The reality is, I think we just need to face the fact, as educators, that there are challenges that we need to not turn a blind eye to.
Yep.
And we need to have hard conversations that perhaps takes it completely out of our comfort zone, but we need to have them so that we can move forward as a country, because like it or not, we're all in this together. We're either gonna sail forward or we're gonna sink together. And so we need to get past whatever our differences are and really just look at what the greater goal is, because that's what we do in the classroom anyway. Think about it.
I mean, we tell our educators and our principals, like, you got to focus on what you're in control of, because there are things and decisions that are happening that are outside of your control.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And having honest conversations with families, like, hey, you have to have a plan in place in case you get detained. Like they need to have, like, schools need to communicate with parents about what needs to, don't avoid it. Don't say, well, it's not going to happen. And then it happens. And then, right. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, you're in control of what is in that classroom, right? And our attendance rate across our partners, it's above 95%. All our students are multilinguals. Mm-hmm. And it's because we create a place where they feel safe, where they belong, where they are being pushed, and where they're learning, right?
Yep.
And that can't stop. Like, we spoke to all our educators. We're like, right now, you've got to double down on everything that you're doing, like everything, we have a whole session on how to create a physical environment that feels safe, right? Mm-hmm. Everything from a Bluetooth speaker and music to a diffuser, right? Like things that just like kind of bring we got to lower the heart rate, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And allow kids to journal. And if they're having an off day, hey, this is what you do, but then you're back in, right? Because if you've experienced war and disruption and trauma, you need something that is predictable and continuous and known. And so if school starts feeling chaotic, it's just going to be worse, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is something I'd have these conversations with my students, you know, especially earlier on when, you know, when and they were scared. And I'm like, what? I said, I will guarantee you 100% of my efforts that what happens inside this room, you are safe. Whatever we can do inside this room. In this room, right? And that's the extent of it. What happens outside, let's just filter out that noise, and let's worry about what we got. Because at the end of the day, we still need to complete what we need to do in here. I have a job to do, and they have a job to do, and that's just how it is. And we tell our teacher, like, if a student says, you know, I'm worried about my parent, you've got to validate that, but you can't fall on it. Yep, I understand that. And I do. I absolutely do. I talk to the parents. I see them. I call them. I check on them. You know, and that's because, you know, I'm just a teacher. It's not like I can wave my magic wand and make all these problems go away. I wish I could. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the educators in the room are being handled everything, right? Yeah. We're here to educate, yet every policy that we don't agree with or we don't want a part of is now impacting our kids, and it's impacting children, right? Yes, very much so. And I remember we held a family session at one of our partner schools, and we're talking to the parents, and we told them, you've got to name someone to be the guardian or caretaker of your kids in case you're detained or deported, right? Yeah. And we said preferably a U.S. citizen. Yeah. And, you know, I'm saying this, and the interpreters are all speaking, and I see the look on one woman's face, and I just kind of hold my breath, and she's like, I have no one. Who am I going to put down? Right? Like, I knew that was coming, right? And see that all over the room. And I was like, you can put my name down. And I knew you were going to say that. I said, you had to, I'm sure, I was waiting for it. I said, she's going to put her name on. And I'm like, I had people like take me in, like when I was disowned by my family and I was at my lowest, like I can pay that forward, right? Yeah. But then like 20 other families, like, can I put your name down? I'm like, oh my God. Right? Wow. Yeah. Well, see, you have a big heart. Clearly you do. And, you know, if you've dealt with rejection in your life, I think we all have our own rejections that we deal with in some way. Yeah. And so this is, I think, part of being a teacher where you really just kind of open yourself and say, well, I understand. And that's why you put your name down. I would have done the exact same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you're like, educators are in it for children, and you're there to educate them and protect them and make them grow and thrive. And so when you see stuff like this, you're like, I can't sit back, right? Yeah. But some stuff is not in our control at all. And right now that's really so, like, it's hard, right? Like some days I'm like, I can't breathe thinking about some of the things that are happening. This world can be cruel sometimes. Yep. And cruelty to kids is like, it's just the worst. It's the worst kind. Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question, and wherever this leads, it leads. So let's try. I'm going to ask you to get into the minds of your students, okay? To be kind of a mind reader right now. If they could speak directly, like let's say you give them this giant bullhorn, they're speaking to all the educators across the country. What do you think they would want us to hear? They would want you to hear that they want you to learn about their backgrounds and their families, and believe in them, believe in their potential, and set really high standards for them that they can live up to. And they would tell you that the Fugees rocks, and that you should get some of our resources and trainings and partner with us. But they would tell you, like, hold us to a high standard. And then, you know, we always talk about, like, okay, they want to learn, we want them to embrace their home culture, but they also need to learn about America. Yeah. Right? Because there's some things that, like, I mean, we teach kids, like, what is prom? What is homecoming? Right? What is a cafeteria line? Like, really walk through what it is for a student's experience and design for it so they don't feel like oh, I'm stupid. How do I not know? Like, I mean, I've seen kids like multiple days in a row not get food in the cafeteria because they don't know how to do it.
right?
Mm.
And they don't know if some of that food is halal or not, if, you know, they don't, like, they're not familiar with some of the processed foods, right? And so basics like that, like cafeteria, like explaining high school credits to the students and families, right? Like, we've got to get more explicit in teaching what is American, right? Like, I remember my dad did a lot of international travel for business, and he'd get these like little books that would tell you about the country they're going to, but it's not, oh, go visit this, like sightseeing and stuff. It's about customs, right? So in this culture, they don't shake hands, or in this culture, they take their shoes off at home, or this culture, they avert the gaze, like understanding it. So, you know, they can belong.
Wow. So forgive my ignorance. What is halal?
So it's a way of meat being cut in Muslim, in the Muslim faith. So it's like kosher. Muslims also don't eat pig, like any pig product, right? And so some of our students didn't know, like, Lucky Charms has gelatin in it, right?
Yeah, well, that I knew. I knew they don't eat pork products.
Yeah,
I just didn't know what the process of halal was.
Yeah,
Somebody said that it was similar to kosher,
Yeah.
but it's the Muslim way to do that.
So most Muslims like just don't eat pork, but then there's some that are a lot more conservative. They won't eat any meat that's not slaughtered correctly, right? And it's supposed to be a more humane way of slaughtering, but it's draining the blood of the animal, whether it's a cow or a lamb, or, you know.
So how do you work around that in your school? Because I imagine a lot of your students would prefer halal, right?
I mean, we have a whole range, so it's really hard and sometimes expensive to get like meat that is cut that way, right? And it's not always accessible in every part of the country, but we don't serve anything with pig in like the charter school, right? And with other districts that we partner with, like, they label it, so they put a little image of a pig if anything contains it, right? And then now the kid knows, hey, I don't have to eat that, right? Where before they were like thinking chicken nuggets are pig, right? They're like, no, everything is pig, right? And so just labeling the food. One partner we work with, like, they got a whole tray of different spices that the different countries in their building represented, and so the kids could flavor up their food, because they're like, American food is bland, right?
Yeah.
And so they did that, and then the cafeteria team started cooking different types of food, right? Like embracing who they serve, right? Still being compliant with the requirements of however many grams of whatever, right? But there are ways to, I think, to make the school experience just a little bit more humane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's you can add that to the list of all the other challenges that we have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth noting that these are the kinds of cultural nuances that we need to understand about the students that we work with.
Yeah.
It's crucial for us as educators to know and get to know, some of these backgrounds, because we will make mistakes if you're not aware of what like for example, like we said about the gelatin. That's a lot of teachers might forget that. They might not even know that. You give out marshmallows, and that's a big no-no. It's a big no-no.
Yeah. Do s'mores, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's not gonna fly. It's not gonna fly.
Well, and even like, I mean, I remember when I came here, eye contact is really important in American culture, right? Because it's a sign of respect. I'm like, and if you avert, you're being shady, but where I come from, if you look an adult in the eye, means you're challenging them and disrespecting them. So I avert my eye. I still like default to that sometimes, right?
Wow.
And imagine in the classroom.
It's ingrained in you from you were little.
Right, it's ingrained in you. And a lot of families are like that. You don't, like, especially when it's like someone older, right? You don't look them in the eye. And here it's the opposite. And so both parties need to understand that, right? Yeah. Like, I need to understand, well, in America, I need to look people in the eye, right? Yeah. But if I'm interacting with my parents, that can't happen, right? And so there's a lot of code switching. And then the teachers need to understand the kid's not being disrespectful, right?
Wow. See, a lot of people don't know that, Luma.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. They might think, like, what's wrong with this kid?
Yeah, I mean, we've had that.
Culture, man.
I remember like in one of our schools, like a teacher saying, "Look me in the eye." I was like, "Oh, hold on." Like, hold on. Like, let me translate here, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Luma, this has been a fascinating conversation. I absolutely think you're a lovely person, and it's truly, truly wonderful, wonderful program that you're put together. Everyone, give it up for Miss Luma Mufleh.
Thank you,
Luma, I am deeply, deeply appreciative that you're understanding to my personal situation and you're willing to come onto the show. And I'd like to just give you the floor for one last thoughts you want to share with everyone before we sign off.
I think like educators who are listening, like we're all in this together. Like you're not alone in that classroom. Like we're all in this together. We're all struggling with the same things, and we just got to lean on each other right now because it's a marathon with no end in sight, right? So what is it that we can do for ourselves? Like take care of ourselves because we got to be present for the kids, right?
Yeah.
And then what do we need to do for our community to let them know they're loved and cared for and continue learning? It can't stop, right?
Do you have a website where people can find you?
Fugeesfamily.org.
Fugees Family. That'll also be in the description along with all the other links that you want to share.
Yeah.
Luma, it's been a fantastic time speaking with you. I think it's wonderful. Check out her TED Talks and all the other stuff that she does online. You're all over the place, Luma. I got to give you a lot of credit, man. You're all over the place.
I'll tell you a funny story. Like when they had CNN Heroes that year, I remember I was like driving my team to a game, and this woman, like right before we take off out of the game, she pops her head in the bus. She's like, "Oh my God, you're Luma! I watched you on CNN." And I'm just sitting there, and then the kids, like, I close the door, and the kids start laughing. They're like, "Do they know you're also the bus driver, the janitor?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "They just put me right back. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter what this is. The real work is with
the real work is with the kids and with the school."
And sometimes it's messy, right?
This is why I admire you so much, and I just want you to know that sincerely, that I admire what you do. God bless you. Hopefully your success continues.
Thank you.